Hello and welcome back to AP World History Modern. Today we're going to be beginning our second day of review. And we're going to be doing a little activity with cities during this time period. And I guess I probably should say we're focusing in on that 1200 to 1450 time period. All right, so we're doing the cities activity and basically looking at the major cities that you're expected to know for this course. And can you identify, were they more religious? Were they more of a trade city? Were they more of a state building center? And I'll explain more on that in a second. We're then going to do an image pairing activity, all right? And then lastly, we're going to be using images for concept mapping, and just kind of doing a causation activity, and Kahoot. I can guarantee we are not going to do any Kahoots today. So that's but Kahoot follows fails. All right. So first activity. And I guess I would like to remind you as well that if you're looking for a nice, good, review of period one when it comes to interconnected trade networks, Indian Ocean world, Silk Road, the Linda Schaefer article, Southernization is always an excellent quick read, and extremely comprehensive review. So, if you're looking for, a nice, simple way to review period one, kind of the major highlights that deal with Indian Ocean world and interconnectedness in Silk Road, read Southernization, right? Fabulous article. So, but that being said, today's activity, what we did is the kids drew a map of the world. They labeled the major cities, and I did give them a word bank. So these are major cities that you're supposed to be aware of, to know about, be able to locate and discuss, right? So, and I asked them to identify whether or not this city is a religious city, a trade city, or a state building city, and put a parenthetical notation afterwards. And they kind of look something like, I think we used like a big piece of paper, a legit big piece of paper, and we labeled it like that. So the kids drew a map. I mean, you probably can't even see it, but yeah, I don't know, right? So they drew a map, they labeled the map, and then you get those little parentheses around that. Right, so to kind of give you an example, right, of what we're talking about here. Let's use the city of Cairo, right? The city of Cairo is a nice example during this time period. Is the city of Cairo a religious city, a trade city, or a state building city? Now the answer is yes. It's all three, right? But if I am evaluating the extent to which Cairo is one of these three things, right? Evaluating the extent to which is, maybe an argument could be made that it is more one than something else. And so, what would you say for that, right? What do you think Cairo is? And, if I were to answer that question specifically from 1200 to 1450, right, from 1200 to 1450, I would make an argument that it was a state building city. And a lot of students, when I ask them in class, would generally say trade, because of it is a major trade hub today. But I would make an argument from 1200 to 1450 that it was a state building. And when students ask why, I generally give them a couple hints. I'll say it is because of events that took place in the year 1258, right? And a group of individuals from Cairo, right, from this region, will stand up in response to the events of 1258. And it's usually with that students then make the connection to the group that rises to power and takes over, Cairo and Egypt and the region around the year 1260, right? So and immediately following. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about, right? So the Mamluks, right? So what is the story there? Can you describe the story there? So in 1258, up until 1258, we have the Abbasid Caliphate, and and then we know the Mongols sacked the city of Baghdad in 1258. And as they continue to push their way to the west, the Ayyubids, who were in control of Cairo, right, that region around what is today Egypt, the Ayyubids failed to respond, right? They failed to raise an army, and their slave, army, right? Their slave army, led by a Turkic group known as the Mamluks, right? They will rise in response to this. So the Ayyubids proved to be inept, right? The Ayyubids are another Turkic group going back to Saladin, right? If you remember the Crusades, right? So going back to Saladin, and and they are, I'm pretty sure they were Kurdish, right? A Kurdish Turkish group. Right, so and they were the former slave army of the Fatimids, right? But anyway, that's kind of a little beyond. So this is where the Mamluks come from. So the Mamluks take control of, they first off they rise up and they stop the Mongol advance, right? So they stop the Mongols, right? So right about here, right? They stop the Mongols, and right from this point on, you eventually. You'll see the rise of the Ilkhanate, right? So the Mongols will use this region, right, for the Ilkhanate, but you will see Dar al-Islam largely come under the influence of the Mamluks, right? They control the route to Mecca, Medina, right? They control this region. So I would make an argument that this is a state building city. All right, so that's what I mean by, is it state building? Is it trade? Is it religious? Same can be said with like Baghdad. Like we use kind of Baghdad as an example. Since we just talked about this, what is Baghdad from 1200 to 1450? So upon first thought, you might think that Baghdad is a religious center, or a state building center. You could talk about the Abbasid Caliphate. This is where the Caliphate resided, right? It was the home of the Caliphate. As far as religiously, the cultural center, Dar al-Islam, the intellectual center, the House of Wisdom was in Baghdad. However, these things were destroyed 58 years into the beginning of our course. So they existed at the beginning, but the 58 years does not make 1200 to 1450. So Baghdad will come back and will rise again, but largely as a trade city throughout time period one, right? So, all right, so that's what I mean by that, all right? So and we usually spend 15 minutes in class, kind of doing this, 15, 20 minutes in class, doing this, right? So just kind of draw this thing out, label where they are, and identify, right, which it was. And as far as student accountability for this, for me, right, so if you're doing this, if you're watching this and then you're doing this as a review activity at home, for me, it's one of those things where I want you to identify, if you don't know where a city is, that's an issue. So I want you to identify what you don't know, right? What is your weakness, right? So, right, and even if you do know where all of these cities are located, do you know enough about these cities to be able to answer this very basic kind of question, right? You shouldn't need to know that much. Like I definitely don't expect you to be able to do what I just did about Cairo. But you should be able to, say Malacca, right? Where's Malacca on my list? I know it's somewhere. There it is, Malacca, right there. You should be able to drop that where it is, right? Kind of go drop it over in this region over here. And you should be able to make, you should be able to pretty quickly, be able to talk a little bit about this. You should be able to say that this is a trade city. Because that's the context in which we use it. You can make an argument for religion because of all the different examples of diffusion that make their way through the Malacan Straits. But you should know that. And if you don't know that, then that is a gap in your knowledge, and you need to address that gap. All right, so these are all major cities you should be aware of. All right, and just at least be able to know a little bit. All right, so if you don't know it, then great, fix that. Right, address that deficiency, and tighten that up. All right, so that's so we spend about half of class just kind of doing that, and then we do kind of a quick claim building activity. And I do kind of go through here. These are some answers. So if you want to do this by yourself, don't look at this. I don't let kids use any technology or any books or anything when we do this. And then I take about 5 minutes and I just kind of answer questions. Are there cities you didn't know where they were? Is there any cities that you had a debate within I think we use groups of 3 for this. Are there any cities in which you had a debate, state building, trade, religion, that wasn't resolved? All right, so pretty quick little activity, simple activity, and if you don't know Venice's trade, then that's a problem, right? If you don't know Venice's trade, that's a problem. All right, so the next thing we do is an image pairing thing. So I'm going to show you a couple of images. I'll tell you a little bit about them as I show them to you, and then this is, the goal is to come up with a claim, a category of analysis in which you could use these images as evidence to support, right? And then you got to be descriptive from there to explain that. All right, so this is another simple class activity. We spend maybe 5 minutes on this first set, and then if time permits, we do another set. If not, we move on to a different activity. So what is this, right? So I'll ask students in class, where is this? What is this? All right, so most students are able to easily identify that this is Timbuktu. This is the Djenna-Ruber Mosque, or it's actually just outside of Timbuktu. This is the Djenna-Ruber Mosque. This is Mali, right? Kind of historic Mali. This is built under the direction of Al-Andalusian architects, right? So think Cordoba, right? And yeah, so this is, and a lot of kids remember from early in the year the reapplication every year of the mud exterior, that kind of stuff. All right, next one. This is the Mosque of Cordoba, right? The mosque in Cordoba. All right, so Andalusian. Right. So Islamic Spain, right? So I didn't say that before. All right, so those last 2 were Islam, right? So what is this? What religion? Hopefully right? Christianity. Where is this? This is in the kind of northern central highlands of Ethiopia, right? And this is a church for St. George. And it is believed, at least this is what I picked up from my architecture and war history class that I took off from whatever that something X is there from MIT, is that this is probably designed and kind of overseen by South Asian architects. And I think the thought process here is that in India, right, in South Asia, there is a tradition within Hinduism of carving temples into stone like this, and the precision of this denotes experience, right? So, but yeah, so this is Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia, right, and then here we have the Temple of Heaven. So this is in Beijing. This is a couple miles away from the Forbidden City. This is built in the early Ming period. And as far as religion, it's really not a religion that we learn about in this class. So this is not a temple that would have been open to people. This is a temple that would have been used by the emperor once a year or so, praying for a good harvest. And this is a very specific kind of religion, right? The religion for the elites. All right. So that, right? So just kind of looking at these, can you come up with a claim or a category of analysis in which you could use evidence from at least two of these. You could use more if you want, but you could use evidence from at least two of these to support. Right, so yeah, feel free to do that. You're welcome to do that and email me if you want, if you are, or just bring it in when you come in next time, and I'll go over it with you. All right, so if time permitting, we do another set as well. Right, so what is this? This is Bobador. So built around 8 to 900s CE. This is in Southeast Asia, right? So down in Indonesia way. And of course, at first glance, when I kind of first saw this, I kind of thought this might be Hindu because it has that kind of mountain look to it. But then again, I saw the stupas on top, right? And the stupas denote it's Buddhist. And so kind of reading a little bit about it, it was built like a mountain so as to kind of blend in with the mountains that surround the region and the mountain veneration of the animistic religious beliefs of the indigenous population. So this is kind of an interesting blending of different religious beliefs, syncretism. All right, so this is, right, where's this and what is this? Most students pretty quickly recognize this one, right? So this is the Khmer Empire. This is Angkor Wat, right? So built around 1200-ish. Right, so Angkor Wat is a Hindu temple. And, but the water system around this area, like around the water system, is almost as kind of significant and impressive as the architecture itself. All right, next, this is right, so we're going to kind of take this in. All right, so where do you think this is and what religion do you think this is? So this is the Mosque of Xi'an. Xi'an is a historic city of Chang'an, kind of the old Silk Road capital of China. This is the historic capital of the Qin dynasty, and kind of early Han dynasty as well. So this is the mosque in Xi'an, right? So this goes by Xi'an today. It's Xian. Okay. All right, and lastly, this is the Temple of Literature. This is a Confucian temple in what is today Hanoi, Vietnam. All right, Temple of Literature. All right, so once again, same activity. All right, same activity. All right, and so feel free to do that if you want. And a lot of students kind of, take the I guess if you want to do it by yourself, stop listening. But most students in this one here use the synthesis route, right, to develop a claim, right? So kind of matching diffusion with synthesis for this one, if you want a little help on that. All right, and then there's a series of these like kind of image slides that I didn't create these, but they are phenomenal. And just kind of shows you just how powerful images can be used for review. Generally, we just do one of these in class, right? But they're all really great, right? So, take something like this. First off, what is this, right? What religion is this? Well, if you don't know the religion, do you know that it's a tomb? If it's a tomb, what religion buries their dead? Right? So, that little fact right there, if you know that this is in South Asia, if you know that this is a mausoleum, right, this is a tomb, then you know that this is not Hindu, right? Just for that fact alone. Right, so this is Muslim, this is Islamic. Right? This is an Islamic piece of architecture. Right, so what empire was this built under? Right, so most students can pretty easily get that, right? So that's easily, Mughal. So this is other time period that we're mostly spending on. But yeah, this is a Mughal piece, right? And so yeah, we just kind of go on. How far can you go with this, right? So who built this, right? So do you know this is Shah Jahan? Well, how did the Mughals get the resources in order to build something like this? Like, what was their source of wealth? You can take this as a kind of a review activity in a lot of ways. But you should be able to kind of look at these images. We often kind of use this one as well, right? So this is, this is one of those things where most students remember this because we do spend a decent amount of time on this. I even quiz you specifically on this stuff. But if you don't remember for whatever reason, CASTA, right? CASTA. That should help jog your memory. But we don't really go through all of these. We just kind of skim through some of these and, just kind of use these as a starting point for discussions. And if you're looking at these and you got no clue what they are, then that's a problem, right? That's a problem and that's a deficiency, and you should kind of figure that out. So if that is the case, let me know. All right. So, but hopefully you look at these images and you know exactly what these are and all that. Right? You can answer these basic kinds of questions, right? What were they, what is, most kids can give me the year on this, what people were in the square protesting, why the government reacted the way they did, what the implications of that reaction have been. You should know all that kind of stuff. It's a good little causation thing. All right, so that is it for today. That is all we really did for today. So, and that whole thing takes, takes a long time. So, but yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. That is all.